Hey guys, welcome to the review of the bike you've never heard of. So for anyone who knows lots about bikes, this is a Cagiva. Cagiva didn't do many bikes for very long. They used to be an older manufacturer, then they stopped around the 2010 period when they ran out of funding and there were issues with homologation because Cagiva hardly ever used their own engine. They made some small engines for something called the Planet, which is their small naked bike. I think it was a 125 two-stroke. And then they had the Cagiva Mito, which was a look-alike of the Ducati 916, one of the most famous old Ducatis. But aside from the looks, there was nothing the same about them. I mean, it was a 125 two-stroke for the Mito. It was a small bike, but it was the dream of every kid who could only ride a 125. Like in South Africa, where you have to be at least 18 to have anything bigger, because it made 35 horsepower and 23 newton meters of torque. But enough about Cagiva in general. This bike here is called the Elefant, with a 750cc V-twin, 21-inch front wheel, 17-inch rear. It was competing with the likes of the Honda Africa Twin back in 1988 when it was launched. Now, Cagiva never made their own engines except for their small bikes. For their Raptor series, which were their naked bikes, they used Suzuki engines from the SV650 and the TL1000. On this bike, they used a Ducati engine. So this is actually a 750cc Ducati engine. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this actually came from the Ducati 748. Now, it has been retuned slightly for better low-down torque, less top end, as this is an adventure bike, not a super bike. But majority of the engine still remains the same. So what makes this bike special to me personally is it was the first bike I ever saw my father ride. Now, it's not the first bike he ever rode. When I was very young, he used to have his own bikes and everything. But when I actually came of age to, realize what I was doing, and when we came back to South Africa, this is the first bike he ever owned. He bought it in partnership with my uncle. They went half each. And then he used it as a commuter. This was back in 2006, roughly. So it holds a special place in my heart because this was the bike that my father rode. And I used to see him coming home with it, and I'd hear the sound, and it's one of those things that actually probably got me started on biking. I wanted to ride it back then, and thank God I didn't, because my only experience was a 125, and although this isn't super powerful, it's really tall and heavy at about 213 kilos wet. So I would have probably crashed it, taking my first corner, having to put my leg out. I mean, even now, and I'm 1.82 meters tall, I can't flat-foot it, I can tippy-toe it, and reversing is a mission. So you can imagine, 16-year-old me trying to do this. So the specs on this bike are 60 horsepower and 63 newton meters of torque. So torque-wise, it has the exact same as my Honda CBR 600F, but almost just a bit more than half the power. On a bike like this, you wouldn't be using power much anyways, and the pull is pretty decent, especially for a 1988 bike. And this bike didn't get ridden from about I think it was 2009 or 2010, the starter motor went. And being a Ducati engine, it's a little bit difficult to find these kind of parts. However, last year, my uncle was able to source one from a scrapyard. Just by chance he found it at a decent price, put it in the bike, and the bike started up again. You can definitely feel that low down torque on this. Now, this bike doesn't have a stock pipe, it has an aero exhaust in it, and since it's from the days of no catalytic converters, it effectively has a straight pipe. So it's quite a good noise to it. Very punchy. So the brakes are a bit spongy, the clutch is fairly heavy, the pegs are quite high, which is just something I'm not used to, with the levers quite far forward. So there's just things I'm not used to having. But if you ask me, she has a really cool classic look to her. And I'll get off the bike and I'll give you guys a better look just now, but what do you guys think of her? Yeah, that's the hooter. Oh, I got my lights off. Oops. Let's be safe. So the red line of this bike is at, well, I would call that 8,500 revs roughly. I don't know how well you can see the speedo from this view. See if I can give you a better look right there. It's very old school. Nothing new or technological about this bike. There's no ABS, there's no traction control, there's no slipper clutch. There's the only real electronics are the lights and the indicators and the brake light. That's about it. It's got high and low beams, passing lights. Switch it there. I think that's with the park, and that's actual lights. Hooter, turn signal, starts on and off. It's got a fuel tap. So I want you guys to tell me, do you have any classic bikes that you still ride? I'm thinking anything before 1990 is classic for now, since that is now 28 years ago. But you guys tell me, what are you riding that's classic? I find that when you have a classic bike, something that's more of a nostalgia than a performance machine, you drive it slowly because you're not in a rush to go anywhere. This is one of those things where you drive it for the pleasure of being on something that's old. Like I have a 1967 Fiat 600 sitting in my garage. It used to be my grandfather's. He bought it brand new when it came out in 1967. So that is a classic car. That thing has 35 horsepower, half of what this bike has, and has a 600cc engine, 4-cylinder. And I've driven that thing, and I think to go 100 k's an hour, if it even could, when it was brand new, it was 42 seconds, not to 100. I've gotten it up to about 80, but I never really rev it. It's just fun to drive slow, and that's what I think classics are. They're fun to drive slow, because that's how they were designed to be driven back in the day, and that's how they should remain to be driven. You know, they were never made to be speed machines. Or rather, for our times at least, they're not speed machines. But the sound this bike makes. This is actually my first time ever being on any vehicle with a Ducati engine. So I've never actually been on a Ducati. That's a goal of mine, to get a ride on one day. It's a shame Cagiva went under. They were one of my favorite brands when I was growing up. Just I loved the look of their bikes and the sound they made. And they basically took, with their Raptor series, they took a Japanese engine, so you got the Japanese reliability, and they combined it with an Italian design, which is the best of both worlds. It's kind of like what happened to Lamborghini. Lamborghini got bought by Audi, and then Audi fixed all their technical issues, their lighting, electronics, all that, and then gave them the foundation to build an amazing car. Look at the Aventador and the new generation Gallardos, the Huracans. They all work. You don't hear about Lamborghinis braking every 5 minutes and going through 2 clutches a day. It's unheard of. And that's what Cagiva was doing. But unfortunately, as I understand, what happened was when the new Euro emissions came out, Cagiva had to now buy the new engines from Suzuki. And Suzuki told them they have to buy so many engines. I don't remember the exact number. I think it was a few thousand they had to buy minimum. And Cagiva wasn't sure that they would be able to sell that many bikes. So for them to buy all these engines and have them sit around would have been a waste of money. So they had to drop ties. And since Cagiva had never made a big engine bike, that was the end of them. Their name still stands. You can still buy the patents and the molds and everything if you want, I think. But it just stays unsold. I think it's owned by MV Agusta technically at the moment. I'm not 100% sure. But I don't feel compelled to go really fast on it, which is not a bad thing. It's nice to actually have a bike I don't want to just speed on for once. As you've probably seen from most of my reviews, I'm just always going fast. But you know, you get on a super bike and you don't go fast, it feels weird. Wow. Huh? Very nice. Okay guys, so I've had a quick stop here because I happened to see this beauty. This is the MV Agusta F3, one of the best looking bikes I think I've ever seen. This is 675, so this is the first one. I did an 800 afterwards, which had more torque, more power and everything, but I digress. It's got steel braided hoses. In fact, I think these are aftermarket. I'm pretty sure they are. That wouldn't have been stock. The engine looks quite pretty, I must say, especially for its age. This is a very beautifully built engine. Look at the cover is there, the clutch case or stator, I'm not sure which side this is. Clutches on that side. So this is the stator then. It's got a basic frame guard, doesn't have a full belly pan. But look at that front end. Look at that piston cover. That is so beautiful. This is nice, this is relaxing. Maybe this is what I need to do to get myself to stop being a hooligan on a bike, because I just need to buy a laid-back twin. Nah, I like being a hooligan. Need that air. It's very stable when you stand up. You can see this is a bike designed to be an adventure bike. The way the pegs are set up, the very square pegs. Yeah, this is a purpose-built bike. The Italian's answer to the Africa Twin. Yo, that was heavy braking. This bike does not like to stop. Also, I don't want to lock it up and then prang, you know. So I'm afraid to grab brakes on bikes like this, you know, old tires, they're going flat as I ride. And geez, just pump these up. No, these things, if I had to ride this every day, there's a lot of stuff I'd be fixing up. I was doing 150 up this hill on a Cagiva 1000. Just going to behave myself right around here. Being 70 on this. And I don't mind. On the Jigsaw I'd be bored. On this thing I'm having fun. Just goes to show, it depends on what kind of bike you have. And when people tell me they sold a certain bike or super bike because they thought they were getting into too much trouble, they're going to get arrested, I believe them. I 100% can relate to that. I will not buy myself a super bike ever for road use because I will get arrested probably. I'll save that for a track bike where it's completely legal to do all those things. You buy a fast bike, you're gonna go fast. Otherwise, why did you buy it in the first place? You don't buy Bugatti Veyron to go 20 around town. So, but guys, that's been me. My quick review and first impressions of this nostalgic for me 1988 Cagiva Elefant 750. It's a fantastically fun bike to ride. It's bringing nostalgia back to me, and I like classics of all calibers, cars and bikes. So when I get to ride one or drive one, it's really a cool experience for me. But with that, I'm going to end this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you'd like me to do more classics in the future. I'll do my best to find them. But until next time, guys, I've been Aero Rider. You've been awesome. Ride safe.